President Biden clearly in a crisis mode right now. The Taliban taking control in Afghanistan as thousands of men, women, and children attempt to escape. The border crisis continues to spiral with a record surge of migrants last month, and there is rising inflation. Big concerns hitting America's wallets right now. This is a mess. I mean, it was bad enough with the border, with what's happening with the COVID resurgence, what's happening with inflation, but you have this Afghanistan mess, the possibility of terrorism coming back into play, which had been put off the charts for the past year and a half or so. How much will the Afghanistan mess thwart the domestic agenda that the Biden administration has?
Well, I think what will happen is, sadly, there are not enough adjectives to be able to describe the debacle that's happening in Afghanistan. So it will have an effect in terms of domestic policy. But the bigger thing right now is that Joe Biden continues to sit at Camp David. I mean, he came to the White House so that he could give that presidential address to the nation and, quote, take responsibility, of which he didn't do. He didn't take responsibility, and quite frankly started blaming other people. But I can tell you what was happening is he got the best military advice, he got the best intel, and in fact they knew what was going to happen when they pulled out in this manner, and instead of pushing the pause button, they actually went ahead and went forward with it, thinking that the headlines of getting out of Afghanistan would somehow justify the kind of humanitarian crisis that we're seeing. So not only are we going to see this.
I'm sorry, I just want to jump ahead to where we are right now. We right now have thousands of Americans outside of the perimeter that's secured. And they are relying on the word of the Taliban that they will give safe passage to the Americans and our allies, by the way, also trying to get through the perimeter into the airport. It's just, to me, it's extraordinary that they are relying, and they said they're going to hold the Taliban accountable. How do they think they're going to hold the Taliban accountable?
Well, they've let them sweep in and take control in just a matter of hours. And so to suggest that they're going to hold them accountable, I can tell you there was one president who was willing to do that. It was President Donald Trump. And I can tell you that those conversations, not only with the Taliban, but as the negotiations took place over the last couple of years, what happened is that Americans' interests were not in harm's way. In fact, what we saw is that over the last 18 months is really the Taliban were held at bay because of a strong leadership. What they've seen is weakness, and what we're now doing is pleading with a terrorist group to protect American lives. You know, we're seeing the same thing in big cities across the country is that the rising crime level, and we're somehow pleading instead of taking real action.
You know,
and
you
Joe
bring
Biden,
up a great point. National security is on the line now in so many different areas, and Lord knows, I mean, God forbid, but if those Taliban and al-Qaeda people in control now in Afghanistan begin to do what they did in 2000 and 2001, the whole world will regret what has happened. Now, I just want to see, though, focus on this point, because I think back to Jimmy Carter, and he had double-digit inflation, largely due to a number of things, but specifically he was on watch dealing with the double-digit inflation. He had a lot of other problems, but it was really what happened in Iran with the Americans who were held for 444 days in Iran. That is what led to his devastating defeat in 1980. Americans wanted a change. I mean, this to me seems like it could be for the Biden administration what the hostages in Iran were to Jimmy Carter.
Well, I've got enough gray hair to remember those days, and it was a defining moment for Jimmy Carter. And what we're seeing is Jimmy Carter 2.0 right here with the Biden administration. What the progressives will tolerate on our southern border, they won't tolerate when we start seeing things like the graphic pictures in Afghanistan and abroad. And so what happens is the very normal constituency that you would have to support that in Congress, they disappear. So everybody's scratching their heads and saying, well, where is Joe Biden? Why was he not on top of this? How could he possibly have allowed it to happen? And so, yes, I think it will be a defining moment for the Biden administration, certainly for the first year in terms of everything that has taken place.
Well, and let's talk about everything else. We don't have that much time, but we've got inflation, which is really kicking in hard now, and you know, opinions to the contrary, I don't think it's slowing up that much. It is the double whammy of not only deficit spending that's causing it, but also those 10 million unfilled jobs because of Biden policies to spend money on expanding the welfare state to include the middle class. So you have a lot of people staying at home, not working. Both of those things are causing more inflation, and that's not going to end anytime soon, is it?
Well, it's not going to end anytime soon. And, you know, Biden is not only doubling down, but tripling down, trying to increase additional federal spending by $4.5 trillion. But he's got an answer to it. Newsflash. He's going to ask OPEC to help us with gas prices. He's going to ask the Taliban to help us in Afghanistan. Right. And ultimately, he's going to ask Guatemala to help us with the southern border. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's ineptness at just levels that we have not seen in recent history.
And the other thing is COVID. He came in, you know, with the vaccine thanks to Operation Warp Speed, and he was hoping to ride that wave and take credit for the vaccine. That didn't last long, but now you have this uptick, particularly at the southern border, and no surprise, 80%, according to Dr. Mark Siegel, 80% of the hospital beds in McAllen, Texas, are filled with illegal immigrants right now, many of whom have COVID, and that is spreading through the south of the United States. So, I mean, everything is working against the policies that came in with Biden.
Well, if he had just followed some of the policies that we had left in place for him and followed those, he wouldn't have the problem that he's having. But it's also a double standard. You can't have an open border and suggest that everything is secure, whether it's from terrorists or from criminal cartels or from COVID, and pretend like everything's okay. You have to actually talk about the facts, and sadly, the facts are not on Joe Biden's side.
Very quickly, this is a sidebar, but it's a very interesting one. While President Trump is still forbidden to do anything on Twitter, the Taliban are still on Twitter with live feeds, etc. Twitter just responded to the outrage over that policy, saying, Twitter says Taliban spokesman will be allowed to remain if he doesn't get too violent. Can you believe that? If he doesn't get too violent, forget the history ever since we first heard about the Taliban?
Well, it sadly is when you allow terrorists to continue on Twitter and you allow them to be the arbiter of what is good and bad, you know, it's a time for Twitter to go and actually be regulated. And I'm one that basically will call for that each and every day, as long as you see the hypocrisy coming out of the little blue bird.
Well, the hypocrisy is just unbelievable. Mark Meadows, good to see you. Thank you for being here, Mark. Appreciate it.